As I've been researching subjects for my new book regarding culinary terminology, misnomers, misunderstandings, and misuses, I've come across many curious cases of food-related words whose connotations have been contaminated, either through cultural misappropriation or etymological foul play. Now, so far, I have to say that the single most messed up term I've come across is the word curry. Now, I've reviewed several hundred lines from a dozen different dictionaries, and it would indeed seem that the word curry comes from the ancient Tamil language, and the word curry, meaning a sauce or relish designed for service over rice. Now, the modern definition is given as, and I quote, a preparation of meat, fish, fruit, or vegetables cooked with a quantity of bruised spices and used as a relish or flavoring, especially for dishes composed of or served with rice. How very completely, utterly non-specific. Certainly not the kind of descriptor that I'd apply to anything that I would call compounding our conundrum is the fact that the word curry is rarely, if ever, used in India. Don't believe me? Come here. I've got connections.
Customer service, this is Bob. May I have your account number, please?
Well, hi, Bob. This is Alton calling. Say, where do you go for good curry?
I'm sorry?
Curry, around Delhi. Where do you go for good curry?
Oh, that is so typical of Americans. You assume that because I am Indian that I am eating a curry.
Oh, come on, Bob. I'm going to be in your neck of the woods next month and want to know where I can go, for some decent curry.
No self-respecting Indian would ever eat anything by that name. Perhaps you should visit London instead.
Where is that? Is that in town or down south someplace?
It is in England, Mr. Alton. Now, goodbye.
Well, thank you for your help, Bob. Nice talking to you. Funny that he mentions England, for it is there that the modern concept of curry, such as it is, was born. And that concept can be summed up by two words. Chicken tikka, the unofficial national dish of England. Some 20 million tikka servings are gobbled down each year here, most of them at one of London's 4,000 curry houses. Now, tikka actually means bits or pieces in the Tamil language, and here those pieces are served over rice and then blanketed in a sauce or curry, saturated with a spice blend known everywhere as curry powder. Everywhere, of course, but in India, where they've actually never heard of this stuff. To understand how curry powder happened, we must journey back to the 13th century when Arab traders and Venetian merchants controlled the flow of spices from Asia to Europe. And of course, they controlled the prices, which were often so high that India black pepper was worth its weight in gold. Now, this was a pretty sweet deal for the Arabs and the Venetians, but not so much for the big spice consumers, such as Holland and England, Portugal, and Spain, who became so enraged that they finally decided to just set sail across the open ocean to find a water route to India and hopefully cheaper spices. Now, for various reasons, most of them did not make it, but thanks to a particularly brilliant navigator named Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese did manage to land in northeastern India and establish trade with the local rulers. Now, by 1600, the British East India Company, having been soundly spanked by the Dutch East India Company and the Spice Islands, decided to turn their cannons on Portugal and relieve them of India. And by 1612, they had done just that. By 1618, Sir Thomas Roe was serving as the new English ambassador to the Mughal Emperor Jahangir. Now, he kept copious records of his work there. He was especially good at noting the meals that he enjoyed. As it turns out, the kaleidoscopic flavors of the subcontinent blew the old boy's meat and potatoes palate right out of the water. Now, the English eventually annexed all of India from, 1857 to 1947, and each and every businessman, soldier, merchant, bureaucrat, and royal who made the trek returned to England with a serious Jones for Indian flavors. Now, since they didn't have Indian skills, ingredients, or cookware, the best they could do was smother everything with a gravy or curry packed with ground spices, which were eventually mixed and sold as curry powder. And thus, an entire multifaceted culture was reduced to a dust. How very modern. Okay, just because this word, and by extension, this product, don't actually exist in India. Spice mixtures do, but they're always assembled from freshly toasted spices, and they're highly specialized depending on the dish in which they are to be employed. Now, the word for such a mixture is masala, which means, oddly enough, mixture. Now, masalas can be either wet or dry. The wet versions or curry pastes are going to have to wait for their own episode, as we are going to concentrate here on dry masalas, and in particular, the most famous masala of them all, garam masala. All right, garam means warming in Hindi, so garam masala, warming mixture, and it serves as a flavor primer for a great many dishes. And I say primer because it rarely appears alone, but rather as the foundation for additional spices. Now, spice merchants typically offer their own unique takes on garam masala, but by and large, this is a mixture most often concocted at home. Like a good Indian cook, I keep everything that I need to make garam masala here in kit form, where small open tins are nestled inside a larger vessel. By keeping such a kit, I always have garams at hand, and I can easily monitor the necessary supplies. And please note that all are kept in their unground form for maximum shelf life and maximum flavor. Now, before grinding spices that are destined for a masala, I always want to toast them first. Okay, heat activates the essential oils inside the spices, rendering them more volatile and therefore more effective. You can think of heat kind of like, I don't know, having a good preamp on your stereo. Okay, now even heat is absolutely key, so I always reach for an 8-inch cast iron skillet for this job. This goes over medium-high heat. Now, the actual garam masala mixture could not be more simple. 2 tablespoons each of cardamom seeds, not the pods, but the seeds. Coriander, these are the seeds that cilantro grow out of. And black peppercorns. I prefer the ones from Tellicherry, named after the southwestern port of the same name. There. Now, 1 tablespoon each of cumin and brown mustard. Kind of stir that in as you go. And we're going to need 20 cloves by count. Of course, if you don't want to count that high, just go a little bit more than a teaspoon. There, that's good. 1 stick of cinnamon, about 2.5 inches long, broken in half. And for heat, 1 arbol chili. These are fiery customers, and I advise that you remove the stem and the seeds before crumbling the rest into the pan. There. Now just stir and continue to cook for 3 to 4 minutes or until the entire kitchen smells like an Indian restaurant. There, now let those cool for 5 minutes. Meanwhile, grate yourself 1 teaspoon of nutmeg. And yes, I always keep one of these around. When the spices are cool, move them into your favorite spice mill. Yes, I know it's just a coffee grinder, but I keep this one just for spices. Very efficient tool. Just process for about a minute until you have a fine powder. There. Then you can add the nutmeg. Process again just to combine. There we go. Wow. Smell that. Isn't it just... Oh, I'm sorry. You can't. Well, believe me, it smells good. But that's bad, molecularly speaking, because it means that all those great volatile compounds are just disappearing up into the air. Now, we could seal this in airtight containment and stash someplace for maybe a month if it's dark and dry and cool, but what we really ought to do is use it. Let's consider some options. Say you had a 1-gallon zip-top bag inside some container that can hold a 1-gallon zip-top bag, and let's say you added 1 tablespoon of our freshly made garam masala to that, as well as half a teaspoon each of toasted and ground cumin seed and coriander seed. There you go. Then 1 teaspoon of kosher salt goes in. There you go. And we'll also need some black pepper. Just eyeball 1/2 teaspoon's worth. There you go. Shake to combine. Then meat. Now, I really like lamb for my tikka, so 1.5 pounds of cubed lamb leg, the sirloin end, if at all possible. You can ask your butcher for that if you don't see it in the counter. Seal, give it a shake, put it back into the container, reopen, and then add dairy. In this case, we'll go with 1 cup of plain whole milk yogurt. Do not use the low-fat stuff here, kids. We need that fat. Once the spices, yogurt, and meat are thoroughly mixed, reseal the bag and refrigerate for a minimum of 30 minutes and up to a couple of hours. Now, it's important to note that yogurt is the #1 dairy food of India. It's especially prevalent in the cuisines of the southern states, where it appears in pretty much, well, every meal, often in the form of a thick paste, which serves as a marinade, then an insulator during cooking, and finally as part of the sauce, which is exactly what we are up to here today. Although the final flavor of this tikka will indeed come from this spa treatment, as it is, we must not discount the impact of the cooking device most associated with tikkas in their homeland, namely the tandoor. Now, tandoor basically means oven, and tandoori refers to foods that are cooked in a tandoor. Now, although its exact cultural origins are a little shaky, this vertical earthen oven rose to prominence in modern-day Punjab in northern India, possibly by way of the Middle East and northern Africa, where similar ovens were used to bake bread for workers toiling on the pyramids. The device itself is cunningly simple. Air enters the bottom of the oven, feeds the open charcoal fire, which in turn loads the ceramic material with in excess of 800 degrees worth of heat. The tapered top creates what engineers refer to as a venturi, focusing the convective heat. In essence, the tandoor is a great big clay jet engine for cooking food. Now, flatbreads, as we see, are typically just slapped right onto the interior walls to bake, but meats cooked in the tandoor go on large skewers, and just about anything can go in here. Now, the high heat, especially when it mingles with a yogurt-based marinade, creates a very, very distinct flavor that is regrettably difficult to replicate in the home environment. Well, since we don't have a tandoor, we'll have to go with the highest heat that we can possibly manage in the residential environment, which would be a grill on high. It's a lot of charcoal, and it is really hot. You know, it's a shame we don't have a, wait a second. If we just, wait right there. If you had a large terracotta pot that was unglazed and free of cracks or blemishes, you could, if you wanted to, grab yourself a ruler and a pencil and make a line about 1 inch down from the bottom, thusly. There, that's fun. Don't get too dizzy. Then, if you had a hacksaw with a masonry blade, you could just cut the bottom of the pot off. There, that's pretty easy. Right, but I'm not exactly known for my patience. And besides, I've got, well, some eye protection, which is what I'm going to put on first. And then I'll fetch up my angled grinder with a masonry blade. Available at your local hardware store. And with this, you can do the entire job in about, 130 seconds. There. Nice clean cut. Well done. Of course, we wouldn't want this thing to crack when it goes on the heat, so how about a 8 to 12 hour soak in just plain old water? Then we'll remove it and allow that to just dry off to the side for, about an hour. Meantime, the fire. I'm going to spritz down the financial section with a little vegetable oil, shove that underneath my charcoal lighter, and pile in 1 pound exactly of natural chunk charcoal. Fire it up. The oil will help the paper burn longer. And when we have nice hot coals, we will don our fire protection gloves. Red's nice. There you go. I'll just dump that right down into the middle of the grill and place the pot thusly. Who said we don't have a tandoor? I'm going to let that sit and slowly warm so that it won't crack. 10 minutes, I would say. In the meantime, a 12-inch skillet goes down over medium-high heat. We'll add 1/4 cup of vegetable oil and allow that to heat almost until it smokes. Then 1 large onion chopped will go in, along with another teaspoon of kosher salt right there. Now, what we want to do is to let these really brown until the onions are almost chocolate-looking right around the edges. It'll take about 12 minutes. In the meantime, we'll add another pound of charcoal to our tandoor and set for another 10 minutes. Now, on to the prep. I'm going to wrap my ginger grater with a little plastic wrap. Why? Because I need a tablespoon of ginger, and this is a much easier way of getting it. There, look at this. This is like my favorite kitchen trick. Haha. No, I don't have to wash anything. All right, we also need to mince a Serrano chili. I like gloves for this because this stuff's pretty potent. Just split it right down the middle very carefully. And then remove as much of that inner membrane and the seeds as you possibly can because they've got a lot of heat, but not a whole lot of flavor. So I just want that outer portion of the meat. Just carefully cut through that. Watch the fingers. There. And then you can slice it into juliennes and then cross-cut that into what we call brunoise. Very nice. Reduce the heat to medium-low and add 4 cloves of garlic minced to the pan. I figured you knew how to do that, along with the ginger and the Serrano chilies. Just stir that and continue to cook for about 7 minutes or until brown. In the meantime, we'll add yet another pound of charcoal to the tandoor and set for another 10 minutes. There. Now that's what we're looking for out of the aromatics. Okay, at this point, stir in another tablespoon of your garam masala. Now, by adding some of this to the sauce, which is going to cook at a relatively low temperature, and to the meat, which is going to cook at a very, very high temperature, we will bring out all of the different dimensions that the masala has to offer. It's a very Indian cuisine thing to do. While you're at it, 28 ounces of diced tomatoes go into the pan. There's going to be a little steam. Just cook this down until it thickens, about 20 minutes, which is plenty of time to do some skewering. When choosing skewers for even a small tandoor such as ours, one must consider how skewers cook in a tandoor, which is like this. See, they fit down into the oven. Now, if our tandoor were actually the size of this bongo, I'd say that these standard issue skewers would, give us room to spare. But our tandoor is approximately 8.6 times larger, so we need to supersize our skewers. Check it out. 3/16 of an inch wide, 27 inches long, nickel-plated steel. These are super skewers, kids, and I'd say you're about a quart low. They're excellent for performing tandoor chores or for general grilling or repelling the occasional home invader. All right, 10 minutes is up. It is time to make one final deposit of charcoal into the tandoor. 1 pound, please. Well, the time has come to lance our lamb, but of course, yogurt-covered things can be kind of icky to work with, so you may want to don some disposable examination gloves available at your local drugstore. Before I skewer up, I also grab myself some dried pasta. Just something short and wide, rigatoni, for instance. Perfect. Show you why in a minute. Now, just empty everything out of the bag onto a pan, a sheet pan, or cookie sheet, and make sure you get all of the marinade as well. All right, we are ready to skewer. And I have to tell you, if you have your Good Eats 3D glasses, now would be the time to put them on. Yeah, pretty sweet, huh? All right, down to business. We want to have maximum meat skewer contact. So each time you grab a piece of meat, try to go through the longest portion, okay? So just kind of hold it like this and literally feed it on to the skewer so that you've got something that looks like that. And make sure that, your hand isn't part of the equation, okay? Next, a spacer. That means a piece of pasta. This will prevent the meat from getting all squished up on itself, and it'll cook more evenly this way. It's not absolutely required, but I find it is a nice, handy helper. Pretty clever. You know, every year I wait for the Nobel Prize Committee to call. So far, well, no luck yet. There. Now we're going to have about 6 to 7 pieces on each skewer. I'm looking to get all of this onto 4, just like that. All right, the time is up, and we're going to take the temperature of the tandoor and look at that 835 whopping degrees. We are good to go. Just basically poke those skewers right down into the heat. Don't worry, the venturi created at the top will make sure that the pieces near the handles cook properly. Keep them moving every minute or so until you have a good doneness. With a fire like this, we're probably talking about 2.5 minutes of total cooking time. Yes, the bottom pieces will be a little bit charred, but that will add to the overall flavor in the end. There. Remove them from the skewers, place in the pan, and then just plop the pan right down on top of the tandoor. Little extra salt to correct for seasoning, and then we're going to add coconut milk, 1 cup, to finish the sauce. And just stir that in. Very nice. Serve atop long-grain basmati or jasmine rice with mint or cilantro. And the way I would deal with that mint is to stack up 9 or 10 leaves like this, just roll it up like that, and then use a very sharp knife to cut into ribbons. This is called chiffonade. It's a little tougher to do with cilantro, but you can manage. Me, I like the mint better. There, perfect. It is only now that our tikka has become technically a kari. Now, although I prefer lamb, nearly any meat can be a tikka target, including chicken. Boned thighs take especially well to the method. Well, as I'm sure you can see, with your garam masala kit in hand, true Indian flavors are always nearby. Of course, building a true Indian pantry will take some time and several more episodes of Good Eats, but at least you know there's one thing you can live without. See you next time.